Let's see if I can stay off that mute button today. Welcome to Market Madness, the podcast from GiveMeSport, where every day is like deadline day with myself, Joel Beya, and GiveMeSport senior football correspondent, the man himself, Mr. Ben Jacobs. Now, we're currently live on Facebook, YouTube, and X. And if you're listening back in the future, then do make sure you're following us on @GiveMeSport so you can see when the live shows are taking place and get up to the minute news as it happens. So, coming up today, it's been one of the most talked about transfers this summer. Noni Madueke to Arsenal. Oh, it's happening. Whew! And today we talk to his personal trainer, who some of you might not know used to be my personal trainer as well. Coach Sol Isakson. Look, I don't know if I've got that right, Coach. I just call you Coach. You know what it's like. But to learn more about the player who Arteta and myself are hoping will be able to take to the next level. Okay, look, England are in another final as well. The women's team have done it again. We catch up with the former international Lindsay Johnson to relive last night's epic game against Italy and assess our chances for the final itself. Right. I'll be quizzing Ben as well. Ben Jacobs, our main man, with the transfer stories and updates and, you know, what's going on with this Ekitike guy, Isak, Hermanson. I want to know all the news. And finally, Ben sat down with Eric Ten Hag's former right-hand man at Manchester United, Mitchell Vanderag, is on the show today. I can't believe this. What's going on? What is going on? For more information on any of the stories discussed today, head over to GiveMeSport's website and make sure you're following across socials. And you know what? When you can, get your questions in. We'll pop it up on the screen. We're live on the show and we're here to enjoy. Right, let's get to it. This is Market Madness from GiveMeSport. I'm off mute. The man himself, Mr. Ben Jacobs, senior correspondent at GiveMeSport. Sounds like a lot of money, that. You're the man in the know. How are you, first of all?
I'm good. I nearly started on mute just to troll you, but I figure those that are watching will want to hear the latest transfer news. All is good. But before we start, I need to see a flex. I need to see your muscles if we're going to be bringing on your old personal trainer. Look at that. Looking good. Yeah. He did a good job then.
He's actually my personal, I say personal, he was our football coach as well, actually. So a man with great knowledge. We don't talk as much recently now that he's got higher class clients, but hopefully we can get back to talking. I just want to say as well, really quickly, Ben, I've been seeing your news like everywhere this summer. And obviously me and you started working together probably 3 years ago or so. And of course you have Fabrizio, who's also a heavy part of the show, but you are one of the people that we go to for news. If Mr. Ben Jacobs has said it, we know that it's true. So
yeah, that's really kind of you, and I really appreciate it. It's been a busy and exciting window. I think with transfer windows, the players should always be the story, and it's kind of about trying to give that balance and generate that excitement because we all love a transfer. But at the same time, things are so sort of unpredictable, which is why we called this show Market Madness. And I'm sure Arsenal will not be done yet either, Joel. So I have good news for you. We might speak about something later in the show because I think we might get another Arsenal player announced today.
No way. No, Ben, you know what? My heart palpitating. Anyway, before we go on with the show, I need to ask you a few questions because the listeners and myself, they want transfer updates. But there's that one question that we ask you. And for the fans, you need to know that we asked Ben something at the start of the show. His job is to go away. He finds out what the answer to the question is. And he comes back and he lets us know. So you have to keep on watching the show all the way to the end. So that question is, where will Rodrigo play next season? Because there's lots of questions, you know what I mean? At one point, was it going to be Arsenal? Was it going to be Bayern Munich? Is it going to be Chelsea? We don't know, but we know you're the man that can find out. So please stick around so Ben can give us the news. Right. Before we move on, I need to hit you up with some of the transfer updates. You can give us the update on, first of all, Alexander Isak. What's going on over there?
Yeah, it's a complicated situation. We should respect Newcastle, and their position is very clear that he trained alone for part of a session yesterday due to being integrated into pre-season. It wasn't just Isak training alone. It was also Lewis Hall and several other players. And similarly, he didn't play in the first pre-season game because they want to ease him into everything and manage his minutes. When you add up not being in that friendly, not being with the group for a full session, And in addition to that, what Newcastle say was a small thigh injury, which is now cleared via a scan. You could definitely make a case that Isak's head has been turned by this speculation over his future. And even Eddie Howe admitted that post-match. But right now, Newcastle's position is clear. Alexander Isak is still not for sale. Have Liverpool given up? No. If Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz leave, they will sign another attacker. Whether that's now for Isak, January or next summer, remains to be seen. But Liverpool and Alexander Isak is expected to rumble on, potentially, like I say, beyond this window. The Saudi interest is genuine, but I'm not aware that Alexander Isak fancies a move to Al Hilal. And then I think we're probably at a scenario where Newcastle will want to end the noise by getting Isak to sign a new deal. And maybe rather than the original expectation in January that if Newcastle got Champions League football, didn't really matter what happened with the new contract, because ultimately Isak's still under contract until 2028. He's on good money. Newcastle could just let it run on for another year and everything could stay the same. They've got all of the cards. Now I feel, because the Liverpool approach, that it will likely end up with either a new contract or clubs bidding and trying to prize them away, potentially not with much middle ground. And that's just because as soon as you get the approach from Liverpool, the interest is genuine. There's an openness for Isak to potentially move there as well. Players' head can be turned. And to counter that, sometimes you do have to show more urgency and tie that player down on an improved contract. So that's Newcastle's hope, that Isak remains, that he signs a new deal. And I think the sooner they can settle his future, the better. Because if it just stays as is, then every little thing that Isak does is going to be put under the microscope. And because Liverpool haven't given up, this could still end up being a saga that runs right up until the final minutes of the transfer window.
Now, Hugo Ekitike, to me, that was really interesting. When you spoke about it last week about, Liverpool said, look, if you're not going to give us Isak, we're probably just going to go for him. I thought, come on, you're having a laugh. But it looks like it's really happening. They're not playing. He's obviously now in the country and he's arrived. Can you give us more information about that transfer, please?
Yeah, my understanding is Hugo Ekitike has passed his medical, which was done in two parts, both yesterday and today. He went to London, not Liverpool, and then in the latter part of this week, he'll fly out and join Liverpool on their pre-season tour of Asia. Whether or not he'll be in the squad for their game, which I think is on Saturday, remains to be seen. But this was not a new pursuit by Liverpool or a backup in any way. I think it just looked like that because they made an inquiry on Isak and then they knew they had to move fast on Ekitike because Newcastle were also working on that deal. But Hugo Ekitike scored very highly in Liverpool's data analysis all the way back to the sort of January period. And they knew that he would end up being a leading target. And regardless of the Isak situation, they opened talks with him 3 or 4 months ago in a formal sense, discreetly and privately. And they've now agreed a 6-year deal with the player. So it's pending full formalization, but he's passed his medical. Contract signing is expected to be later today, and then he'll be off on that plane. So Hugo Ekitike can be considered a Liverpool player. And the fee is £69 million plus 10 million in add-ons. So that comes to about 91 million euros, which means it's not a club record sale for Frankfurt. It's not too far off, but it's a shade lower than the reported 95 million euros number that we've maybe heard in the last week. And I think Liverpool think that's excellent value for money.
I'm not the FFP guy, but it's like, where are they getting all this money from? What's happening?
Or where Arsenal getting all this money from, where Man City getting all this money from, where Chelsea getting all this money from.
Ben, we barely spend. We don't spend enough. What are you talking about?
No, I mean, you're right that some teams, and I think Liverpool and Arsenal both fall into this category, are essentially able to stockpile and then spend when they feel the time is right, because for several windows they haven't. And that allows them to be in a more concrete financial position to have windows like this. I think the other factor with Liverpool is just the fact that they have been backed by FSG off the back of winning the Premier League. So season 1 under Arne Slot was all about settling the future of Virgil van Dijk, Mo Salah, and obviously they tried for Trent Alexander-Arnold and he went to Real Madrid. So that's the kind of backstory to the first year. How can you add continuity from the Klopp era and keep the stars? And now they've won the Premier League. It's very much a strategic desire to have a revamp now. The other thing is financially, with Champions League money and consistent Champions League qualification, Newcastle have been able to not sort of run parallel to a club like Liverpool because they've been in Champions League, out of Champions League. And that's the sort of contrast between the two clubs, that Newcastle have had to be very careful with breaking their wage structure, whereas Liverpool have been able to say, okay, we can guarantee Champions League football, we can guarantee spending. And the difference between those two clubs is that Liverpool closed their financial year at the end of May, and they do that simply because they then want to put all of this outlay from June onwards onto the next financial year, and they can. So that allows them to move very fast and aggressive in the market. Arsenal have had to wait until July to get going. And Newcastle, as I say, with Champions League football, no Champions League football, Champions League football again, they just can't break their structure. So certain teams can spend because of planning, because of ambition, because of Champions League football, and because they closed their financial year earlier. And Liverpool tick all those boxes. Arsenal tick some of those boxes. Newcastle tick very few of those boxes. And that's why we've seen a discrepancy in spending between the three clubs.
That, you know what, that you've actually answered that question, and hopefully the spending continues for us, as you've hinted. On to the next one, Mads Hermanson. Obviously, from what I'm seeing, West Ham taunting that he might be the next signing. Have you got an update for us, please?
Who was that, Joel? Sorry, you just cut off.
Mads Hermanson.
Oh, the Leicester goalkeeper, yeah. So yeah. West Ham are really interested in the Leicester City goalkeeper, and it's a key position for Graham Potter to strengthen. My understanding is that Potter would like a goalkeeper, possibly a left back, and then two more midfielders, because Edson Alvarez could depart. So a number 6 and likely a number 8 or even a number 10. The goalkeeper situation is the one that they're working on at the moment. Leicester are braced for a bid from West Ham. And it will all kind of depend on the price, because Hermanson is keen to move back to the Premier League. Leicester would be reluctant sellers, but it's one of the few players they've got at the moment that could command a significant fee. And we know that Leicester's finances are relatively tight. 12 months ago, it was a case of 35 million for Mads Hermanson. And it was Chelsea that were inquiring because, of course, there was the Enzo Maresca link. And instead they went for Philip Jorgensen because that was a cheaper deal. Now Chelsea are not there, but West Ham might be. And West Ham's perspective is that maybe they could see the price drop from 35 to 20 to 25 million because of Leicester's situation and the fact that another year has come off Hermanson's contract. So West Ham and the Leicester City goalkeeper are ones to watch. And then at the same time, you've got Leicester who are in talks with Asmir Begovic. And that will be an interesting saga to see whether it gets over the line. Veteran goalkeeper. I don't think he's coming in as a number 1 at Leicester. So if Hermanson leaves, I still think they'll look for a younger option. Ilham Melia at Leeds is one possibility. So keep an eye on goalkeeper movement in terms of out from Leicester and also into the Foxes as well. And West Ham are going to be busy now because they've got in that Mohamed Kudus money. So Graham Potter's really looking for additions in the next 2 weeks, not just in that goalkeeper position, but also in midfield as well.
And how do you feel about this transfer personally, mate?
No comment.
No comment. Okay, no worries.
I mean, look, Leicester were always going to be in a bit of trouble. Wilfred Ndidi's got a relegation release clause. It's 9 million, but he's got a high wage. No takers yet, but a lot of interested clubs. Hermanson's a quality goalkeeper, even more so in the Championship. He could be vital to Leicester, keeping clean sheets. You look at James Trafford and Burnley, the run of clean sheets he went on that helped catapult them back into the Premier League. So my fear for Leicester is if they sell, not all that money is necessarily going to be put back on to buy. And that's the sort of concern, that Leicester may not have the ability to be that free in the market, even if they have a couple of outgoings. And then you've got a new manager too coming in. So there's a lot of change at Leicester. I'm a little bit worried about their chances of getting automatic promotion, but staying positive with my Leicester fan hat on, a little bit more pessimistic with my journalist hat on.
Understood. Now it's time for me to get my Arsenal fan hat on. Oh, I've been waiting all week to do this, Ben. I've been waiting all week to do this, and it looks like it's about that time. Gyokeres to Arsenal. We got the here we go yesterday from Fabrizio. Please talk to us about this transfer. All of a sudden, the Arsenal fans have come out. We're in full joy. We're absolutely buzzing, and we're ready to challenge for that title. Talk to me, Ben.
Yeah, Victor Gyokeres is expected to be given permission to undergo his medical within about 24 hours. The deal's at the final stages, 63.5 million euros, plus 10 million in add-ons, as we revealed on GiveMeSport. The stumbling block was over the add-ons, and it took a bit of time, particularly relating to 2.5 million euros of the add-ons. And Sporting wanted them to be easier. Arsenal also wanted the payment terms for the fixed fee to be in 4. Sporting pushed for 2. Now they've found a compromise. Still waiting for the formal documentation. It's one of those deals where until the ink is dry, we have to be a little bit cautious. But I think you're right to do your little Gyokeres impression. He will be an Arsenal player, and likely the deal will now be formalised before the week is out.
You know what? That's absolutely fantastic news, because I was looking at it going, oh, pre-season's about to start. We're in Singapore at the moment. And yeah, I just want it to be done. And I want him to join with the team as quickly as possible. And it's a shame that Liv isn't with us today, because otherwise I would have been given a this.
I can't even do it. I sort of do that, and
it's like, not because it's not for you to do, Ben. It's not for you to do at all.
Actually, that wasn't too bad. That was better than I thought.
Fans.
That was better than I thought. I've got the kind of face, actually. I actually look better like this than I do like this.
That's actually really good. That's actually really good. Okay, look. Thank you, so much for those updates and the transfers. Ben, please, we have to make sure that you give us, I know that there's things like there's breaking news coming, etc., but please keep on feeding us with the news. And if you want to see more of Ben's transfer talks, head over to the GiveMeSport website. And if there's anything you need to know right away, then please get involved into the show. Just leave a comment wherever you're watching and whenever you're ready. Okay, cool. I believe...
we're going to breaking news first.
Yeah, go through.
I've actually got 2 bits of breaking news. So one relates to GMS correspondent Fabrizio Romano, who follows up an exclusive that I broke last week on Jorel Hatau. And Fabrizio Romano now reporting that Chelsea have started club-to-club contact with Ajax. This follows a GMS exclusive that said Chelsea had opened fresh talks, and now a bid is expected to be imminent. Ajax wanting £60 million, although Chelsea feel a deal might be possible for £40 million. And Hatau is the next priority. Liverpool like the player as well, but Chelsea are first out the blocks on this one. So we'll keep you posted on Jorel Hatau. And then just an update on Yoane Wissa as well, who is wanted by Newcastle and possibly Tottenham as well. And the situation as of now, it could change throughout the day, is Wissa is going to be meeting with the Brentford hierarchy to discuss his future. He's left a training camp in Portugal in order to do so. And the idea of these talks, which are amicable, is to get on the same page. So Wissa's made it clear to Brentford he wants to leave. Brentford want Wissa to sign a new deal. So there is a big gulf in each side's position. But instead of agitating for a move or going on strike like Gyokeres did, Wissa's asked to speak to the Brentford hierarchy. And my understanding is that he will say very clearly that he would like to leave because he feels at his age, this is his last opportunity to go and play Champions League football. And both Spurs and Newcastle have that and can offer it to him imminently. Newcastle had one bid yesterday rejected for £25 million. It actually went in 48 hours ago. And as we revealed on GMS, a second bid is being prepared for in excess of £30 million. Now, Newcastle feels something between 30 and 40 million might be enough. But we should show respect to Brentford's position, because when Nottingham Forest came calling only 2 weeks ago and had their own rejected bid of under 25 million, Brentford said we want double. We want around £50 million. So the number that Wissa could be sold for is definitely going to be key to whether this deal comes off. And similarly, Brentford have not given up on offering Wissa new terms, but the more likely scenario is that Wissa won't renew, and Newcastle are really pushing. They want to be quick to make sure that there isn't a Spurs hijack. And I'm expecting that second bid for Yoane Wissa from Newcastle to go in imminently after Wissa's talks today and possibly tomorrow with Brentford.
Okay, then. Well, I think this is the time that we've all been waiting for. We have Sol, who is Noni Madueke's personal trainer here today. He was also my personal trainer, by the way. So, can you please come in and let them know that I'm not lying, please? How are you, Gaffer?
I'm very well. How you doing? I was going to say, I don't know who's my most famous player of work with, yourself or Noni. So both very similar standard, I've got to say, mentality-wise anyway.
No worries. How are you doing? You okay?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, very well. Busy time of year for me, but great to be able to join you guys. Thanks for the invite.
Can you tell us a bit for those who might not know? Obviously, I see you on social blowing up, with the curving shots that you make all the players do. But can you tell the people what it is that you do exactly?
Yes, I'm an individual development coach, very much focused on skill development. My background's in academy football. I worked at Chelsea, Tottenham and Arsenal. And for the last 20 years, also I've been an individual coach. So work with players like Noni who want to do a bit extra, get a bit better in their game, both on the pitch and off the pitch, and try and hopefully challenge and support those guys.
Brilliant stuff.
So, Saul, how do you kind of get a player? Because there'll be lots of personal trainers out there. There'll be lots of club programs. In other words, a player will know through the club they can always do one-on-one work. So tell me a little bit about how you sort of caught a player and what's the difference between one-on-one work with you versus one-on-one work within a club.
Yeah, so Noni reached out to me via his agent about 4 years ago when he was still at PSV. He wanted to do some stuff in the off season. That went really, really well, and he scored a couple of goals in the Cruyff Cup, which is like the equivalent of the Community Shield out there, with the PSV against Ajax. Sort of got hooked in. And answer your question, I mean, I offer something a little bit different. So I mean, yeah, all clubs offer extras, but generally, it's maybe not as well thought out, or it's just a bit of an addition on the end of a session. So what I do, my specialism, my skill is to try and break the game down into position-specific game-changing moments, and then support players into training that and to making them transferable to the game. So like anything really, you see in the industry, there's many specialists, talk about marginal gains and interdisciplinary approach. Mine's very much focused on the individual needs.
Gaffer, you've completely gone silent, Gaffer.
I think we lost him, unfortunately. Gaffer. We'll just try and resolve that.
Okay, we've completely lost you, Gaffer. You went silent there for the last 10 minutes, for the 10 seconds. You might want to try. I think that's
there we go. That sounds promising.
Yeah, that's much better. Much better.
Should we start again? Did you hear that? Or should I start again?
Yeah, we sort of heard the first part of the answer. It was really interesting because you were telling us how Noni reached out to you, and then you were just kind of coming on to how you balance that individual relationship with the needs of what a club wants, and obviously make sure that there's mutual communication.
Yeah, so yes, I mean, it's difficult. So when Noni first signed at Chelsea, he did on his first day said, "Look, I work with Saul," and that clubs necessarily don't really aren't as open to it, but they obviously they understand players do it. So obviously we have to monitor his loading, and Noni's also got a personal physio as well. So it's about having that balance really. And if we're doing stuff in season, understanding where he is in it. But the reality is, look at the best players in the world. Everybody wants to do extra. Everyone wants to get a little bit better. So it's about trying to facilitate that, help them that, while obviously not interrupting their general program with their clubs.
And then, with Noni in particular, will anything really change in the approach from moving to Chelsea to Arsenal? Different manager, different system, different role, potentially, even though he's always going to be a winger. Do you have to tailor the programme because there's a new club, or is it just a case of staying consistent?
No, I think, listen, I think we even tailor the programme from manager to manager, because each manager has a different way of seeing the game and different ways they want Noni to play. And obviously, if you think about going to Arsenal, we're probably anticipating playing maybe on the left side a little bit more, or probably a lot more. So obviously trying to get that into the sessions a lot more. So anticipating that, and then trying to help him make that transition as well. So I probably do anticipate playing on the left wing a bit more. So the sessions should then reflect that.
Now, I want to know more about his work rate. We obviously know that he's fast down the wings, etc. But please tell me, not just to soothe my ears, what's his work rate like?
I've never met a harder working player in terms of his mentality in sessions, in terms of his general working mentality. And I've said this a lot, when I've done a lot of press about Noni, is that, this guy, I've said it a lot, he's a mentality monster. He wants it so much. And, we do our off-season camps in Marbella or wherever, while his peers are in the beach clubs partying, he'd be on the pitch with me training, and I'm almost forcing him to have a day off. So, I've worked at, Chelsea, Tottenham and Arsenal, with a lot of players, and then a lot of players individually. I've never seen anyone work harder than this guy or more focused on being the best that he can be. So I tell you, there's nothing for you to worry about in that department.
And what about his development over the last few years? Because look, I know what you're like. You love to work on a detail. So, what have you had him work on in the last few years, and where have you seen him shine in those areas, please?
Yeah, I think some of the targets we talked about when we first started working together were, I wanted him to be a lot better in going to his right side. Obviously, people liken him to Robin because he likes to cut inside on his left. That's always a super skill. So we worked a lot in the last few years about going on his right side as well, having that balance and being a bit more unpredictable. And I think this is the first season where I think he's really comfortable and going both ways. And you've seen that a lot, particularly with ball striking and scoring goals with his right side. So he's made a lot of progress in that, and he's worked really hard on it. And, he works hard, he wants to be the best. So, there's always room to improve. He's always going to be judged on goals and assists, so forward passes and crosses. So there's always that there, and we have our targets we're working towards. So, there's always room to get better.
So this move for Noni's made quite a lot of headlines, Saul, because naturally anything from Chelsea to Arsenal always will. And it was kind of great to see Madueke ignore a lot of the original noise and just have this beaming smile on his face when he was in the car looking at his Arsenal shirt for the very first time. He's clearly pumped and feels that he can make an impact. Talk to me a little bit about what he'll add, because at Chelsea, he was right-sided, but sometimes used on the left. At Arsenal, they need competition for Bukayo Saka, but there could be cause for him to go on the left-hand side as well. Do you think he's equally as effective on both flanks? And tell me a little bit about his tactical or physical fit within this Arsenal team.
I think first of all, he'll add a bit more to the left side. So I think it gives you, Trossard and Martinelli are very good players. Martinelli for me is a better transition player, so goes into spaces where teams are out of balance. Noni for me can do the ball carrying like that, but also if he's faced up with a low block, as Arsenal will be a lot, he's very good at breaking down those 1v1 situations to try and break down that low block. So he gives you that on both sides. So obviously he could work, if Saka's not playing, but obviously I anticipate him playing on the left, and adding value there, like he did for England recently. For me, he was probably one of the strongest performers for those last two games for England. So he brings a lot to the table in terms of being able to carry the ball, beat players 1v1, and then his shot, his touches in the box. So, he's an entertaining player. He's box office. He gets the ball. He wants to make things happen. He's really positive. He gets people off their seats. And he's a young player with still so much potential. So I'm really excited myself also as an Arsenal fan to see him, how well he's going to do in the next few years.
And how do you sort of balance the modern role of a winger? Because it felt like Enzo Maresca wanted an old school winger that could hug the touchline, but still with that offensive output. And when Noni was really at his best, for example, in the Wolves game, he was exactly that. He stretched defenders out wide like a traditional winger would, but he got into the box and also could finish too. Do you think the modern winger almost needs to be 50% winger, 50% wide forward? Or is there a role that can be defined where you can just be more of an out-and-out winger? And where do you think on the spectrum Mikel Arteta's perspective is of what a winger should be compared to perhaps Enzo Maresca's definition?
I think the modern day footballer, if you talk, obviously I worked in academy football for a long time, any wide forward player really should be able to play across the line 7, 9 or 11, and it's about adaptability as well. So you need to be technically and tactically adaptable and have that flexibility, because if you're not in the modern game and the requirements and the way it changes, and modern managers like Arteta and the England manager and Maresca, they want lots of different things from the players, and it might be completely different from one half to the next. So you need that adaptability, to play at the highest level. So I'm sure he's got it. He's keen. He wants to learn. He works hard. So I can't see there being any problem with him fitting into Arteta's system.
So that's you confirming that he's playing on the left-hand side. Thank you, Gaffer. Okay.
get into that. Arteta hasn't told me yet, but he will. I mean, it's like, for me, I don't see why he wouldn't. It makes sense to, and that's for me. Like as I said to Noni, if that does happen, that's good news because that's England's. He can play seventh. He can play that side for England, and Saka can play that side for England as well. So it's not going to hurt him. But it's again, it's about having the ability to go and play on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, this is me personally. I just don't reckon you spend that much money on someone and you just have him on the bench. I just don't see it happening, not in the long term anyway. But anyway, that's for me to speak, not for you guys. But so, Gaffer, I want to say thank you so much for joining. When I saw you on the call sheet today, I said, yes, we're back in it. So please keep on doing a great job. I'm loving your Instagram stuff, by the way. Your stuff on socials is absolutely banging. For you guys who haven't seen it, check out his Instagram. It's at myfootballcoach1. You get to see all the BTS of him with the players, shooting, training, and maybe it can help you guys as well, or just for general entertainment.
I appreciate it.
Okay, cool.
I just want to get me back on and talking a bit about your game and your, those great days you had.
I don't think they're ready, mate. I was too good. I had to retire and go into punditry, mate. I was just too good.
Waste opportunity. Right, cheers, guys. I appreciate that. Thanks very much.
Cheers,
thanks, all.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Just a bit of breaking news relating to the Crystal Palace captain, Mark Gaye. Crystal Palace have told Gaye in the last 48 hours that their preference is for a sale. This is knowing that Gaye will not sign a new deal. And clubs have now been informed that Crystal Palace would welcome bids because they don't want to lose him on a free transfer. Liverpool could be one option. It will be interesting to see whether they also react to Chelsea opening talks for Joel Hatau, because he's another name on their list. But Gaye and Liverpool could develop. The challenge is that right now Crystal Palace want £45 million or more, and Liverpool will only place a formal offer if that price goes south of 45 million or so. Liverpool want a new centre-back. It might come a bit later in the window. We'll have to wait and see. And Gaye's kind of the exception to the rule. Of course, he is young, but not in the 18 to 22-year age bracket, which is primarily with other targets where Richard Hughes has shortlisted other names. Hatau is one of them. Charlie Cresswell, the ex-Leeds defender, is another. So there's a few different options here for Liverpool. They're definitely not all in and only focused on Gaye, but Gaye is definitely a deal that Liverpool are prepared to advance on at the right price. And he would be seen as a market opportunity if that asking price drops in the coming days or the coming weeks. Then another thing to note is, regardless of Palace, because it may feel like when you present it like that, a sale is very possible. You have another situation where, because it's the World Cup, Gaye's looking for minutes. He wants to play every week. At the moment at Liverpool, you've got Ibrahima Konate and Virgil van Dijk. So Gaye is actually prepared, I should say, to do the opposite of what Palace want and stay at the club and see his contract down, play at the World Cup, and then leave on a free transfer. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Gaye in any way encourages a move, or actually if he's just content to stay at Crystal Palace and then resolve his future in a year's time. But in the last few days, Palace have given a clear indication to interested clubs that they would negotiate, that they are open to an exit. So Mark Gaye this summer and a possible departure remains one to watch.
Thanks for that, Ben. Well, last night, England had us all on the edge of our seats as they played out their Euros semi-final against Italy in Geneva in a win that was anything but conventional. It was incredible stuff. Trailing 1-0 for the majority of the game, the Lionesses managed to equalise in the 96th minute before snatching the victory late on in extra time, sealing their third final in 3 consecutive major tournaments. We just have it so good at the moment. Joining Ben and myself right now to relive an unforgettable night is former England international and now broadcaster Lindsay Johnson. Lindsay, how are you?
Lindsay, thanks for joining me. I'm feeling a little bit calmer this morning. Yesterday, I was a bag of nerves, but the Lionesses are through to the Women's Euros final. They made hard work of it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, Ben. It was another tough evening for the Lionesses. I think we started the game a lot better than what we did against Sweden. We had better possession. We looked purposeful in that possession in the first 20 minutes, but we allowed Italy to grow into the game. They were very organised. Tactically, they set up really well. And I think they grew into the game and they looked really dangerous in those transition periods. Particularly, they go from defence to attack so quickly. And towards the second half of that first half, we struggled to deal with it, and that's how the goal come about. On their right-hand side, our left-hand side, Alex Greenwood was beaten too easily, which we don't say very often at all. She's a fantastic defender. And then the cross came in from that right-hand side for Italy. And again, Leah Williamson, she tries to cut it. She tries to, second guess that cutback, is out of position, goes past her, and Lucy Brown is allowed Bonacea on her back shoulder. And she's not going to miss from there. It was a cool finish. But and that puts us on the back foot, and then we're chasing the game, and I think Italy, obviously, in that second half, they were very good at frustrating England, getting numbers behind the ball, bodies behind the ball, getting a number of free kicks, which frustrated England. And you really thought, where is it going to come from? Where is our spark going to come from? And Lauren James, I know she come off at half time. We put Beth Mead on that. That helped a little bit, but I think it was just crying out for those subs that eventually came on and did the business for England.
And just a word on Michelle Agyemang, who got that 90+6 equaliser that ultimately set up the victory in extra time. What a moment for the 19-year-old.
Yeah, it is a moment. And you know what? I've heard this morning, I'm sure you've heard that Agyemang actually means saviour of the nation. And she just epitomises that. She has saved the nation twice over. And I mean, it was unbelievable, wasn't it? Because in Serena we trust. We've won the Euros with her. We got to the World Cup final. But I just thought those subs are coming on way too late. 86 minutes before you put Agyemang and Beaver Jones on. But, to score, to do it how she did it, with 1 minute to go, it was in the 96th minute. There was 1 minute left of that added on time. And she just took it. I thought she took her first touch too wide, but she just drilled it hard and low and did what nobody else could do in that England side and got us into that extra time, which was, unbelievable. And nearly got the winner, didn't she, with tried to lob the Juliana, the keeper, and just hit the crossbar. So she nearly did it in full time for us.
Now, she's an Arsenal fan through and through, but will probably be in demand this summer. And immediately after the goal, Alexis Aanian, the Chelsea co-owner, quote tweeted a photo of the goal and just gave the eyes. Could the unthinkable happen and she moved from Arsenal to Chelsea?
I personally, for a neutral, I hope not, because you've seen what's happening in the women's game, and Arsenal aren't shy of money. To be fair, they've just obviously done the most expensive signing in Olivia Smith from Liverpool to Arsenal. So, but you never put it past Chelsea. They really set the precedent for women's football, and if they see something and want it, they go out and get it. But hopefully, Agyemang, stays at Arsenal and develops as a player, and then progresses that way.
And then we got another iconic Khloe Kelly moment and celebration. She missed the penalty, but was opportunistic and was able to convert the rebound. And then she sort of leaned against the corner flag and made quite a nonchalant, chill guy almost statement, if people are aware of that particular meme. And this was why she left Manchester City, right? Because she knew if she was to stand a chance of making an impact and getting selection for this Euros, she had to go and get game time. And that Arsenal move has ultimately contributed to her success at this Euros.
Yeah, what a story for Khloe Kelly. Like you say, she wasn't getting it at City, fell out of love with the manager for whatever reasons. And she went out and she got what she wanted and didn't, went to Arsenal, didn't play every minute, had to fight for a place and was coming off the bench as an impact player and getting starts. And you can just rely on her. I mean, she must be the coolest person in England, and the calmest person under pressure. It's like she thrives off it. You can see. And when she came on as well, when she came on that pitch, she had that injection of energy. She looks like she's enjoying it, where everybody else is thinking, oh, where are we going to find it from? She looks like she's thriving on it. So I think it's a great story for her, and I'm really pleased for her. And I think, people have said, well, the penalty was saved. It was saved. Yes, it was. But she hit it with power and pace, purpose, and Juliana, the keeper, had to parry it. And that's how she got the rebound.
And how do you think England will fare against either Germany or Spain? Because Spain are seemingly the standout side, pre-tournament favourites, and Germany, a bit like England, have come through adversity, particularly in the game against France, where they were down to 10 women for so long, but were able to come through on penalties. And of course, if it's Germany, there's a nice story there with Jess Carter, who's had horrible racial abuse, and great to see solidarity with the players. And she'll be coming up against Anne-Katrine Berger, who, of course, she knows very well. And Berger's story is sensational as well. Who do you think England will prefer in the final? And will they be favourites against any of those sides or clear underdogs?
I think for the first time, and before I answer that question, actually, I think you're right. There's great stories to this. We all know about Spain's history and what's happened with them over the recent years as well. And obviously with Germany, particularly Anne-Katrine Berger had a really, poor last game in the qualifier, in the group stages, but then come out and did what she did in the quarterfinals, and plus her history. So unbelievable stories from both of those teams. But I think for the first time, England are going to be ranked lower than the team that they're going to play in the final. They've always been the highest ranking team in this European tournament so far with any team that they've played. So I think just that tiny bit of pressure. I know they're European champions, and that's that brings a target on their back, but that tiny little bit of pressure might be taken away from them. And for once, they're the team ranked lower than the team they're playing, so that might help them a little bit. I think, Germany and Spain are different in the way that they play. We know that Spain are very high possession, short passes, running off your back shoulders. They've got world-class players in abundance who can score goals. You're talking about Pina, you're talking about Caldente, you've got Putellas, you've got Bonmati, and then they've got a very, very strong back line as well. And then Germany a little bit more direct, probably play a little bit more like Italy, in my opinion, very quick on the transition, physical. So both really, really strong teams. I think, for the story, if we're talking about this movie, what everyone's talking about, it'd be great if it was Spain and we could do them over because they beat us in the World Cup final. But I think if I was to pick a side to play against, I'd probably pick Germany. I think they've got a little bit more vulnerabilities at the back than Spain do.
And just a quick word on Sarina Wiegman as well, who's got this astonishing record of reaching major finals. What do you think she'll do with the selection? Because it is now back-to-back games where England have been behind and made relatively slow starts. Her substitutes have had an impact. Is she going to rotate potentially a starting 11 for the final? Or do you expect her to view some of these players that have helped England get this far as impact subs and keep them therefore on the bench?
Yeah, I think, with Sarina, historically, she doesn't like to make changes. She likes to keep that same starting 11. However, we've had 2 back-to-back games of 120 minutes, plus obviously the penalties against Sweden. And I think the girls, they looked tired last night. They did, some of the girls in particular. Some of them, like Lucy Bronze, have played every minute of every game, and they did look tired. So I think, personally, you've got to make a couple of changes. I think the front three will probably stay the same. I think she'll start with, it depends on Lauren James, actually, because she was obviously injured last night. So that could be an enforced change. But, I think she's pretty much set on a front three because she's got those impact players. For me, I'd like to see the impact players a lot earlier in the game. But I think she's got an issue with the midfield. I thought we were overrun in that first half yesterday. I thought Italy were better than us in midfield. And Kira and George were quite quiet in that first half. Second half, better. Thought Ella Toom was one of our better players last night. But obviously she's got that sort of conundrum with her back four. Do you play back four? Do you play back three? I think we look more secure when we play that back three and the wing backs join in and make it a back five at times when we're out of possession. So not answering your question, there's lots of possibilities there, but I think there might be a couple of enforced changes, like I say, Lauren James, but I think she might stick with Esme Morgan at the back.
And a word on Jess Carter as well, who was obviously taken out of the side. We saw the players lining up all arm in arm showing support and solidarity. Even the likes of the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino, have condemned the horrible racist abuse. And it's obviously great to see the football community coming together, but we need to stamp this out of the game, don't we? And then it would be great, naturally, to see Jess be able to bounce back, maybe start and ultimately win the Euros. So we get a happier ending than this horrible and persistent abuse that we've seen online that shouldn't obviously be in the game in 2025.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it calls for something drastic to be done. You know, I understand the frustration of the players last night and why they decided to do something different, because sometimes it can become white noise and we're just used to them taking the knee and what is that actually doing? So I get it, but I think it ultimately comes down to these social media platforms that, you know, something has to be done towards them. What are they doing about it? And I think, you know, there's got to be a bigger impact there. There's got to be some sort of financial sort of damage towards them because they're allowing this to happen, and obviously bigger sort of consequences for those offenders who are doing it online, because it should not happen. And it would be a great story. I know Jess Carter got on last night and there was a round of applause for her, wasn't it, in the 16th minute by all the English fans and probably the Italian fans, I would imagine, just recognising that of what she's been through. You've got this racial abuse, and then she's obviously also had, you know, a lot to talk about her sort of her performances in the games as well. And it's not just been her. We've had vulnerabilities in our defensive backline and defending from front to back as well. So I think there's vulnerabilities in our defensive setup. And Jess Carter is taking the heat for that as well. So it would be magical if, you know, she can either start in the final or come on and have some sort of impact, and ultimately we win that final.
Brilliant. Enjoy the game. Let's hope England can win the Euros. Keep up the good work and thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ben.
Wow. Big thank you to Lindsay for joining us there. And of course, we are right behind the Lionesses this Sunday. So, as we mentioned earlier, Ben had the chance to catch up with the new Zurich FC boss and former assistant coach at Manchester United under Eric Ten Hag, Mitchell Vanderag. Let's hear what he had to say.
Mitchell, thanks very much for joining me. First of all, congratulations on your relatively new role as Zurich FC head coach. Tell me a little bit about how this job came about.
Sometimes something happens when you don't expect it, or you expect the least. And I got the end of May. I received a text, and I didn't know from whom it was. And it was a sports director of Zurich, and we met once, but it was 2 years before. He was the agent of Dusan Tadic, and he asked me what my plans were and what I was doing and what I was looking for. And then, we agreed to meet. He came right away to Lisbon. We had to talk 4 or 5 hours. He explained the project, and I explained the philosophy, the things I wanted to do, and if it was possible, and if you got on the same page and stuff like that. So that went really well. Then you're going to watch some games, and then you know a little bit more about the team, you know a little bit more about the league. And then we had a second meeting here in Zurich, and then everything went very quickly. So then sometimes you don't need a lot of meetings or talks, and then the feeling was good. And I thought to myself, okay, it's something that you need to do it with people, and in this case with the sports director who was very much involved. The connection has to be good. So the feeling was good, and then it's up to the results, as you know. So that's always the same. But we saw lots of things that we connected, and I think the way we think about football, and for myself, I saw potential. So that was the most important thing altogether.
Tell me your first impressions about the squad.
It was a very young squad, because I knew there was a transition of selling players because they didn't fit the way the club wants to play. So They wanted to change to young players. The academy is important. So I knew there was a change in the whole setup. And then you look at the team, and yeah, it's quite diverse, because we started. We have, like you said, Benjamin Mendy, Manchester City world champion. You have Steven Zuber, who has an excellent career as well, 56 international player for Switzerland. But we also have a 15-year-old, very, very big talent here, Rafael Koulibaly. Then in the meantime, during the pre-season, Nelson Palacios has come in. So yeah, it's quite diverse. And I think nowadays as a coach, it happens a lot. So I think that's normal. And for us, we started with lots of young players, and young players, they always give energy. So that's always positive. They don't see the problems. They see it as a big honor to play for the first team and to train with the first team. And then for the other players, you know yourself, if there's a new coach, I always say it's like a honeymoon. Everything is good. You're still in love. You still can do your stuff. So that's good. But I see a team who wants to work, wants to put in the hard work as well. And then you have to see if you are capable of doing the stuff we want to do. We want to have possession-based football. You want to do the high press. So then you start working, and then you see if the team is able to do that. And so far, so good. Next week, 10 days time, the league will start. So that it will be interesting to see how we are at the moment.
Some time has passed since you left Manchester United. How do you reflect on your time at Old Trafford?
As positive. 2 wonderful years, very positive. Learned a lot. First year was very positive. We finished 3rd place. We went to win the Carabao Cup. Went to the FA Cup final. I think the only disappointment, in my opinion, was that we could have been better in the Europa League. But I think the first year was very positive. So everyone expected that we could improve the second season, and that was a very strange season. Not good enough in the league, not good enough in the Champions League. Very strange results as well. Games you're winning comfortably and then drawing or losing games with 4-3. So it was a very strange season. And then in difficult times, you thought, it will be very difficult. And then the team responded, and with the win. So it was very, very, very strange and very difficult. But then in the end, we won the FA Cup. So that's not everything, but it puts everything in a positive way. So that was important. But in the end, 2 years where I've learned a lot, seen a lot, especially on the way the Premier League functions, the way the football is played, the tactical variations and stuff like that. So it was something that I really enjoyed, and I learned a lot.
Did you notice a change in strategy or mood or culture when Sir Jim Ratcliffe came in? Because you would have seen the club both before and after his arrival.
For me, it was difficult. It's difficult to explain that, because I've only worked for 6 months there when the new leadership was in. And at the first time, there were not a lot of changes. I think the changes came after I left, so after the summer. And then you see all the changes, and people are leaving, people are coming in. So it didn't happen a lot when I was still there. So it's difficult for me to explain that.
Many of the same problems of inconsistency continue at Manchester United after you and Eric Ten Hag left. Why do you think that is? Why has Ruben Amorim also struggled to get consistent results?
When you change something, and change is good, I'm not saying that it's bad, but change is good. And if you change a lot, and when the new leadership is coming in and there's a lot of changes, that will do something with people, and you need always good structure and no chaos. And if a lot is happening within the club, then it's always difficult to get the results in, the positive results in. So I think everything together, it's always difficult for a coach to come in mid-season, want to change a lot, different system and stuff like that. So it can happen a lot, and you see, for me from the outside, it's always a little bit chaotic, and everything is happening, and it's not always positive, and so it's always very difficult to be consistent. Players know that. They can see that every single day. So to be consistent is not that easy then.
You must be pleased to see Eric back in work at Leverkusen. It was obviously a difficult summer for you and him and everyone connected to the coaching staff, because you didn't know if you were going to stay or go.
You know, stability in our world is not easy, but at the moment we have stability. No, it's good to see Eric back in work and in a very good club at Leverkusen. So you take a lot of all the jobs you worked in, and Eric will do the same, and then he experienced a lot. And what I always admire in Eric, that even in the bad times when there were not positive results, he was always the leader for everyone. So it was always positive. I've hardly seen him to be negative or to be down. Always there to be the leader and to lead everyone. So that's one thing that I admire, and it's easy when the results are good. So I think he proved to be a good coach. And sometimes things like that happen in football. Unfortunate. So it's good to see him back. Good club in Germany as well. So working with good players, and for sure he will do well there.
Marcus Rashford was phenomenal for you under that one season under Eric Ten Hag. It hasn't quite worked for him at Manchester United since, but he was excellent in a loan spell at Aston Villa. What's your perspective as a coach on how you get the best out of Marcus Rashford? And do you think he almost has to move away from the club now in order to find his best form?
I think it's always important that the player feels confidence. I think that's the main thing, and no matter what level you are. And I think together with sometimes a player has to prove something. And in my opinion, I think Marcus had to prove something as well the first season we came in. I think everything together with the confidence of the coaching staff of Eric, I think it was very important. I think Benny McCarthy was an important role as well when he was there as a coach for the strikers. So I think that all together is important. And so I think when you go away to another club where people like you and where people have confidence, I think that always helps for a player. On the other hand, we have a professional player. People will say, they are professional players and they have to perform everywhere. But I think, in my opinion, it's a bit too easy and too simple. So I think he has to decide what he wants to do, and if you're not welcome, players will feel that, and then it's important that you go somewhere where people recognize your talent, and then you have to put in the work as well. So I think for the first year, like I said, I think it's came from together, the confidence, and the player has to show something as well, and then putting everything together, then you get the outcome he had the first season.
Why, though, do you think he went from being welcome at Manchester United to unwelcome at Manchester United, whether in your time or obviously after?
That's at the moment, that's very difficult to say, because I'm not there. Like I said before, I'm looking from the outside inside. That has to do with the new coaching staff, with the new leadership, what people expect. And what they ask from each other, and sometimes things don't work out, and unfortunate sometimes it happens, and it's Marcus won't be the first player, and certainly won't be the last player. So I think it's something from more people involved in terms how a player feels, and I think. Like you said before, sometimes it's good that you leave and then you find something else, and you have to show people that you're still capable of doing that. But for me, on the outside, it's very difficult to say what the main thing is. I think sometimes when you're playing for a club for a very long time, it's people know you, people know exactly what you are, and sometimes you need a new environment to show things.
And just finally, I'm wondering more as a person or even as a manager, how the incident in 2013 changed you, because of course you nearly died. Thankfully, there was a defibrillator there. I appreciate it's sensitive and you may not want to go into too much detail, but it really puts football and life into perspective, right?
It didn't change a lot. I think, in my opinion, of course it changes you because, it's something different than a cruciate, than a knee problem. So that makes it close. It makes it different. Your view of life is different because then you say, okay, family, kids, they are important, but then you get the idea it's really important. So that's why we close knit family. Although I'm working abroad, but that's the reason. They said, okay, that's really important. But if you're in football, of course you can think, okay, there are more important things in life than football. But I think when you work in any sports or any job, you have to go 100%. And if you can't do that, you can't do that. And if I think every time after a loss, there are more important things in life than only football, then I don't think I'm in the right business. And I don't think it's fair for the club. So that was the most important thing. Okay, I know there's more. The other thing is that what changed me a lot is like, okay, people criticize you as a coach or whatever. And I always say, I've been dead. So that's the worst thing in life. So what can happen? So that's put everything in perspective, and that helps. And apart from that, you have to continue. It's not an excuse. People won't see it as that. They won't put it in context. So, and I don't want that because you go for 100% for a job. And I'm glad that I can work again because when it happened, it was difficult to get a job after that. And I can understand that, but no one wanted to have that risk. And then I started in Cyprus of all places, and I'm still thankful to the president who gave me the chance to work again. So that was good for myself to prove myself, okay, I'm still capable of doing that. And it was important that other teams saw that I was still able to work. So that made me now very happy that I can start working again and have to grab the chance because something can happen very quickly. So I'm grateful that I'm back, that I can work, and so it changed me, but football is still important.
I know you wish I was on mute, people. I know you do, but I'm not. And I want to say a huge thank you to Mitchell for joining us on the show. An amazing to hear his perspective on the different players, on life as well. Honestly, that is one to watch, and you will be seeing those clips and especially him on our socials. But before we go, at the top of the show, we asked Ben a question, and it's time to hear his answer. Where will Rodrigo play next season? Ben, talk to me.
Yeah, it's a great question. And the answer, to be perfectly honest with you, won't be clear until probably the end of the week. So my understanding is that Rodrigo will hold a key meeting with Real Madrid either late this week or early next to clarify his future. Real's position hasn't changed. They're prepared to sell, but it's all on the player. He went away on holiday. He was in America. He's going to come back. He'll speak to Xabi Alonso first. And then and only then will he decide if he wants to engage with clubs. So my understanding is he's open to the Premier League, and we've heard a lot of fresh reports with Liverpool. We know that Arsenal have looked, but both those clubs think that this is an expensive deal. So some things may have to move or change on price or on terms if there's going to be any advancement. And for Arsenal, certainly there'll need to be an outgoing of either Gabriel Martinelli or Leandro Trossard. For Liverpool, the Luis Diaz situation would need to resolve itself first, and then we would understand if Liverpool are going to move for a left winger or more of a versatile or even central attacker. So there's a few moving parts, and I think the first domino is Rodrigo, who hasn't yet had that meeting with Real Madrid. Now, if he decides he wants to leave, I can tell you that quite a known so-called super agent has got the mandate to do this deal, which means that there is a lot of current exploration in the market And clubs are speaking already to understand the terms in case Rodrigo informs Real Madrid that he wants to leave. And if he does, it's largely going to be down to the fact that Xabi Alonso is not going to change much. He's going to keep him on the right-hand side because Vinny Jr. and Kylian Mbappe are on the left, and Rodrigo wants to be a left-sided player, which might lend itself towards an exit. The number I'm told at the moment is 90 million euros. So it's not quite 100 million euros, but it is a big financial outlay. And we'll know more once Rodrigo communicates his decision to Real Madrid. And I think by this time next week, we will understand if Rodrigo wants to move to the Premier League. And then at that point, we'll have a much clearer picture. Whereas for now, there's plenty of noise, plenty of explorations, some talks as well. Arsenal love the player. Chelsea have looked in the past, but they've obviously signed Jamie Gittins. And I think if Chelsea had another left-sided player, it could well be Alejandro Garnacho. But at the moment, their full focus is on Xavi. That's Xavi Simons. But I'm told from a very good German source, the legendary commentator that is Kevin Hatchard, that Xavi is just the pronunciation that he prefers. But just so I don't confuse anyone, Xavi is Xavi Simons. That's Chelsea's focus at the moment. So I can see a scenario of a Premier League move for Rodrigo. But again, we're going to have to be just a little bit patient with this one, Joel, because the player needs first to speak to Real.
This is the kind of greed that they spoke about in the Bible. It's unbelievable what Chelsea are doing here. Honestly, just if they go and they get him, they have to be favourites for the Premier League. I wouldn't say this whilst Liv is here, but that's just my feeling. Right. Well,
wait a minute. What happened to all of this? And like
Look, don't get me wrong.
Doing big things. Arsenal are going to win the Premier League.
I'm up for all of that, but at the same time,
how can you go though? How can you go from giving us a spreadsheet, and it was a spreadsheet of Liverpool are going to drop their last 5 games, and Arsenal are going to win everything 10-0, and Arsenal are going to win the Premier League, and Arsenal are going to win the Champions League. 5 weeks later, you got Zubimendi, Norgard, Mosquera's incoming, Kepa is going to be an underrated backup signing, Noni Madueke, Victor Gyokeres, and probably one more. And yet you still think Chelsea are going to be favourites to win the Premier League?
If they get Rodrigo, it's game over.
Well, I don't think Chelsea are going to get Rodrigo. I think Arsenal, Liverpool are the two that, if there was to be a Premier League move, could advance. I think Chelsea are focused on Xavi Simons. And then if they had a left-sided player, I think it would be more likely to be Garnacho than Rodrigo at Chelsea. So you back, therefore, based upon that clarification, to thinking Arsenal are going to win the Premier League?
Okay, well, if he's not going Chelsea, then that's fine. But I'm as much. I don't say it whilst Liv is here, but they've got a stacked squad, man. I still do believe that Liverpool are favourites, in my opinion. Besides Arsenal, but Chelsea, if Maresca gets it right, he's a problem not only for this season but for seasons to come. Anyway. Thank you very much, Ben. You've been brilliant today, I have to say. That's all we've got time for today. We will be back next week with more news from the front line of the transfer market. Until then, you can listen back on your podcast app of your choice. Just search for Market Madness. For more info on any of the stories we've discussed and much more, head over to GiveMeSport.com and let us know, who do you think will be winning the Premier League? You've heard me flip-flap. You've seen my spreadsheets in the past. This season, we're going for it. The 2025-2026 season, you let us know in the comments. Joel Beya, Ben Jacobs, signing out. Peace.